Let's call this guy the expert discreditator, not so expert.
Hey guys, what's up? In today's video I want to try something slightly different. I want to make a video about some obscure things that I find on the internet, because it happens all the time. You browse around and you find these really weird things, and I'm not talking about porn, but I want to talk about the phenomenon of targeted individuals and gang stalking today. So if you type in targeted individuals into Google, then you get a lot of responses. You can see it's a mass phenomenon. A lot of people claim that they are affected by this, thousands of them, and there are two documentaries on Vice, one that is more about gang stalking and one that is a little bit more about the targeted individual community. So I really recommend you to watch both of those, because they do give you quite a nice window into what is going on in these people's worlds. So what is it? I'm gonna quickly read out this description down here because I think that describes it rather well.
He never heard about gang stalking before. He watched 2 videos on the subject and he knows that the description of that one video describes it rather well. Ha ha ha.
Recently, thousands of people around the world are claiming to be having the exact same terrifying experiences. They all report the same symptoms: hearing operator voices in their heads, suffering from electronic torture, and being subject to organized stalking. They call themselves targeted individuals. Now, these are people who claim that some shady organization, obviously nobody knows who exactly they are.
I know who they are, and I am going to tell you. Watch this.
Types of targeted individuals. Targeted by the government. Why? Brian 2. Former DoD employee, victim of gang stalking.
Brian, many of us targeted individuals have questions as to why us. And I know about, you could have been a whistleblower and all the different reasons, but is it solely that that targeted individuals came or went against the control grid, or is there more to why they're doing this? Is it about the world domination, or why us? No one did anything to deserve a lifetime of torture like this. So what is really behind this?
Listen, targeted individuals are chosen because they fell into one of 4 categories. All targeted individuals fall into one of 4 categories. Okay, and the reason you're chosen or will be chosen for this technology, for the training, research, and development of this technology, is because you fell into one of those 4 categories. The first category are judicial targets, those who have committed a crime or those they suspect may have committed a crime. The second category is extrajudicial targets, and they may range from those who they can't prove that they committed a crime, but they suspect them of committing a crime, to all the way to the other end of the spectrum. All the way to the other end of the spectrum when you're dealing with activists and whistleblowers, etc. That's called extrajudicial targets. The third category of targeted individuals is targets of opportunity. Targets of opportunity, basically, that's a very vague area. It's a very large area, and just about everybody can fall in there. People, for example, who are randomly targeted for the purpose of science, for the purpose of human experimentation, research, and development, like we talked about. Those are targets of opportunity. And then the fourth category of all targeted individuals is called lucrative targets. And those are people who have access to, or who may have possessed sensitive information, or who may have access to sensitive positions. And so those 4 categories, judicial targets, extrajudicial targets, targets of opportunity, and lucrative targets, are the 4 categories which all targeted individuals fall into. And the reason that you're targeted, the reason it's happening, okay, it's because you fell into one of those categories.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarity.
Targeted by non-government groups. Who can become a targeted individual?
How does someone become a TI? The stalkers could select a target for any reason, real or imagined, superficial or substantial. Among other things, a bad breakup, messy divorce, fights between children, disagreements, tense collaborations, or a friend turned enemy can suddenly turn anyone into a target. Gang stalkers get the inside scoop, but like any other gang, they are subjected to the leader's whims and restricted by the group's activities. So gang stalkers aren't even safe from becoming a TI. If they have a falling out with the group, they too can become a target.
Targeted by former federal employees. Dr. John Hall.
And in reality, at least from what we found with counter surveillance in San Antonio, it's usually a private investigative group made up of former federal employees.
Yeah, that's why you've been on the news. You guys have actually caught people before in the act.
Exactly.
Wow. Oh, man, I tell you. And so you've got over 1 million private contractors operating domestically just in PSYOPs, they admit.
There's too many clearances out there. Too many clearances.
Targeted by hackers. Hackers can copy the mind control technology, use it against anyone, and pretend to be the government. Targeted individual, Terry Gillett.
Hi everyone, I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I am here tonight to talk to Terry Gillett, and actually adjusting the screen here a bit. Using a different computer. We're having some computer issues, and it looks like they're attacking my website right now. So this is just all in a day's work. Crazy stuff going on right now. So Terry is a computer security guy, and I'm afraid that due to some of the logistical issues I'm having here, I don't have his bio in front of me, but hopefully he can identify himself. We're going to be talking about mindware and mind war, access to mind control technologies, open source, etc. So Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So what I'd like you to do is sort of give yourself a bit of an intro, a better intro than I just gave you, a little more detailed.
Okay. So what I do is I do blogging. Okay, I'm a blogger. I also do a lot of security research. My big thing is technology, open source, but also I like to do white hat security research, look at different things involving hackers. There are actually a very big variety of hackers out there: black hats, gray hats, script kiddies, and hacktivists. So if you think about it, I don't really like to cover topics with regards to government. I look at things outside of government. So to a lot of people's imagination, you're going to think that, well, mind war is a government thing. But like I say, you can go and Google search this stuff and do the research yourself. But the experiences that I've had over the last couple of years with this technology is actually third party. None of this stuff that I've dealt with is actually official. If some of this stuff is official technology, then it's obviously being hacked by black hats, okay? This is one thing that people just don't seem to understand, is that black hat hackers can in fact replicate this mind war technology that's built by the government, and then they can literally copy this stuff, every component, everything that comes along with it, to the absolute T and to the I. They can cross the T's and dot the I's and make it look almost identical, and basically make it look as if it's real, authentic technology. You got to remember, some of the technologies that I've talked about on my blog over the last couple of years is based on the fact that there are, in fact, hacker spaces all over North America, all over the Western world. What are the chances that some of these people have decided to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to build a device that's going to screw with someone's head? You know, that happens. And okay. I've realized that, you know, the simplest thing you need, and I'm going to show you something here. It's called software-defined radio. You can buy these things off of Amazon for $30. Software-defined radio is essentially like a digital ham radio. It's like a digital amateur radio. It can do a lot of things. A lot of these things can be used for these particular mind war applications outside of, you know, a sovereign government. It can be used to screw with somebody. You can even use it for surveillance. Okay, I've read blogs from black hats who have basically made and replicated IMSI catching technologies used by police, and they built this stuff themselves with software-defined radios that cost, well, about $400 more than what this device costs. And then they use Raspberry Pi devices, which is basically something like this. So if you think about it, this is a Raspberry Pi. Obviously, everybody knows what a Raspberry Pi device is, but that just tells you how scary and how daunting that technology is, especially when it falls into the wrong hands. Most technology is neutral, right? It can be used for good or bad. But the fact of the matter is that people out there are ballsy enough to build technologies that screw with people's heads. It's that simple, right? I mean, obviously, the big thing is a lot of people have this thing against government. I get that exists. That's all over the Western world. You can't help that. But there are people out there who are willing to rebel against their governments and even use technologies that the governments use against them. At least that's the way they think of it. And they can use that technology to mess with the government, but they can also mess with the public too. That's another thing that these guys do, and they do it quite regularly. Okay, I can think of gangs that have replicated this technology and have decided to use it against their rivals, or terror groups for that matter, who use it against their rivals, or who use it against the government, and who use it against the general public. It's not uncommon. It's not some crackpot conspiracy. If you put this stuff together, you'll find that this stuff is actually very real. I mean, I found websites where people are basically openly talking about these things and building this stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of biohackers. Now, a biohacker is basically somebody who, instrumentally plays with their body, modifies their technologies to basically work with their bodies, and it basically means that these guys can just, there are hacker spaces. Okay, literally, there are hacker spaces all over the United States and all over Canada, where I am, and basically the technology can be easily acquirable. And I mean, think about it. You got all these kids who come out of university with computer sciences degrees and no work. What do you think they're going to do in their spare time? Think about that.
So you're interested in the targeting of individuals, it sounds like.
Actually, I'm not interested in that because I am a TI myself, ma'am. Let's just put it like this. I've been a targeted individual. I know I have. I've been targeted by some kind of group that doesn't like what I do or what I say, and they know how to use this technology against me. I'm just starting to stumble across this myself and realizing that they have been using my own IoT devices against me and weaponizing them against me. Okay. I wouldn't think of it. I wouldn't think of targeting anybody. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to raise awareness that this stuff exists and people need to be more aware of it.
Well, I think that's great. I'm glad you are. And that's why I'm having you on my show. But I am wondering, like, in terms of this situation that we're talking about and the mind control aspects, have you gotten into the mind control aspects? And I noticed that you have like a picture of the I think it's BCI. Is that the BCCI?
Yeah. So basically that's one part of what I'm trying to raise a point about is that somebody can build mind control devices themselves. I mean, Wired put an article out back in 2014 that talked about devices that were being built by people in hackerspace labs or basically in meetups, social meetups, where they basically take devices made with Raspberry Pis or Arduino computing boards. So basically, if I were to basically unscrew this here, I would expose the innards of a Raspberry Pi device that could be used and utilized for mind control technology.
Do you know who's targeting you? Can you break free?
Puts implants in their heads that observe their thoughts, that affect their thoughts, that put voices in people's head, that can even move their bodies, that can make you go places even you don't want to go. So it's a really scary scenario. And let me just kind of put this disclaimer out here before I get deeper into this, because I don't want to judge these people. I completely believe that what these people experience is real for them, okay? These people are hearing voices in their head. These people are being physically constrained to go somewhere, or they feel that their body is affected by some external force.
Scanning of Magnus Olsson.
International Center Against Abuse of Covert Technologies. ICACT. Phase 3 scanning of Mr. Magnus Olsson and other targeted individuals.
ISAAct.org was created to bring awareness to the general public and the legal systems around the world about serious human rights abuses utilizing remote influencing technologies. In 2011, ISAAct.org, through the help of Dr. John Hall, a licensed physician in the state of Texas, developed a 3-phase testing process that tested individuals who were complaining of similar type symptoms that were consistent with remote influencing technologies. Although most of these complaints were subjective, the International Center Against the Abuse of Covert Technologies set out to objectively obtain data to rule in or rule out the possibility of remote influencing technologies being the cause of these symptoms. In the following scene, you will see the actual testing of our preliminary scan, Phase 1, with a volunteer by the name of Magnus Olsson. This was conducted in Croydon, London.
Good to this side. No, exactly. I thought that was
Now he has in his forehead.
Now I am stuck. I want to know how the hell I got
Right there are empty, right there it's only liquid. We can put it in and then later it slips.
In the following scene, you will see Phase 3 testing being conducted on Magnus Olsson, this time in a controlled environment. A Faraday cage, which was rated to block out frequencies between 9 kHz and 18 GHz. You will notice that in this controlled environment, that utilizing a frequency counter, that we are detecting frequencies from the right and left TMJs of Mr. Magnus Olsson, including a diffuse area in his frontal area. Keep in mind, the Faraday cage is rated to block out these frequencies between 9 kHz and 18 GHz. Those frequencies found being detected on the frequency counter are well within those parameters.
But it is clear.
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay. We said mid forehead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt for a second that that is their reality, right? However, the question is, where does this come from? Does an organization put effort into monitoring these individuals?
Yes, it does. Go back to minute 153 and watch that part again.
Well, let's look into it a little bit deeper before we judge. I just want to say I don't want to make a video in which I just ridicule these people, because it's easy to ridicule, right? You can easily finger point at it. But nonetheless, I want to share my honest opinion towards the end of the video. So let's look into it a little bit deeper. I was Googling around and I found this girl Bella, it's a YouTube channel. I'll link it down in the description. You can go have a look. Really lovely girl, nice videos. And she talks about her experiences of being a targeted individual. And a few things that she said in her video are really interesting to me. Like, for example, she said, they also seem to monitor me for a very long time. These people speak about inheriting agents that have already observed your mother, all right? And then they observe you now. And she said that this monitoring of her is going so far back that recently the people who observe her were referring to something that happened a long time ago. Apparently she was dancing with a soldier somewhere at an event, and they were referring to that. The voices in her head were referring to that moment that is already a long time in the past, right?
Watching one more video and ridiculing the girl who might or might not be a TI.
And if that happens, I mean, honestly, okay, think about this from a logical perspective just for a second. Who would be interested in looking at your life? I mean, I don't want to judge Bella. I'm sure her life is interesting and exciting and all that. Don't get me wrong, that's not what it's about. But
there are hundreds of websites that sell voyeuristic materials. Perps are selling targeted individuals' private lives online. Pause the video to read this.
Like, for my part, if you would observe my life, it's just boring. Most of it is just really boring and mundane, and that's just the reality for most people.
He did admit that Perp's life is boring. That's why they are watching and stealing from other people.
There is no reason to observe you. You know what I mean? There's no reason to go through the effort of having someone sitting there being paid 24 hours a day, adjusting levels on electronic torture and putting voices in your head. It just makes no sense.
Selling TI's private lives online is only one source of income for these criminals. Pause the video and read this again. This video might help some people understand what voyeurism is. Gangstalking is also voyeurism.
In British English. Voyeurism. Examples in phrases and sentences.
Township visits are bordering on voyeurism. Internet sites dedicated to the act of voyeurism. Her photographs evoke a similar sense of sleazy voyeurism. Films about mental illness do provide more than voyeurism.
Short description of narcissistic voyeurism.
I would say mostly all narcissists are voyeuristic in nature. It goes along with the fact that they're predators and they have to stalk their prey. So it's kind of like Big Brother. They watch you. They want to know all your patterns and everything you're doing. And so, they want to know as much about you as possible. So if they can watch you, stalk your social media profiles, learn as much about their prey as possible, then they already have the upper hand on you. So that's the reason why they like to be voyeuristic. They like to be in charge. So, and I've also already discussed most of them are porn addicts. So that also goes hand in hand with being voyeuristic. So, and in my opinion, it's like one step down from being a full-on criminal, because if you notice, like, if you watch those forensic shows, they often would show like a predator who was stalking a female for months and watching her like come in and out of her house, and they knew all her patterns, so then therefore they knew when to strike, when to attack, or when she would be alone so they could break into the house or climb in through a window. Well, narcissists are no different. They stalk their prey just like a rapist or a murderer. They'll sit there literally all day on Facebook, and they'll look at all your likes, all your dislikes, where you're checking in, where you're checking out of, what you're doing on holidays, what family you're with on this day, places you frequent, who you hang out with. That's why it's critical to either not be on social media or most certainly have a very small, tight-knit group of friends, that you actually know who they are. If you have strangers on your social media and you have no idea who these people are, in other words, if you're dealing with the public, let's say you have a business and, you added some people because you thought they might be a client at a later date, but then they didn't end up being a client and they're still kind of hanging around. Let's say something like that happened. You have no idea who these people are. And you have no idea why they added you, that you might have thought they were, for some business reason, but it certainly could be something completely different. They could be a predator. You don't know who these people are. So that's why I suggest either completely going off social media or don't add strangers at all and keep a super small group of like 150 to 200 people of people you met these people, you know exactly who they are, like it's your sister or some family member, someone super close. Or don't be on there at all, or make all your posts and your likes and all that stuff, make it all private so only you can see it, or you and your friends. So just tighten up your security boundaries, because these predators are literally everywhere, and it's like Big Brother. They're watching you. They're watching every single thing you do. So, narcissists are extremely voyeuristic. The two I knew literally sat on Facebook 24 hours a day. Like, literally, they were on there constantly. Even when they were at work, they were, like, checking their phone. They were constantly on there. So, these people have to be constantly on the prowl because they cannot live without supply. So, therefore, they have to be constantly on the hunt, constantly on the search for new victims. So they're extremely voyeuristic. And, these types of behaviors are one step down from being a criminal, so I wouldn't really put it past them to step up to committing more extreme crimes. I really wouldn't, because they already have the psychology of a criminal, sitting there stalking their prey and watching. It's pretty creepy, actually. But in terms of being voyeuristic and watching people in like other sexual acts, I don't have as much first-hand experience with that. That didn't happen with the narcissists I knew. Like I said, they're almost all porn addicts, so they do watch. But I didn't have any that experience happen to me, so I really can't. I can't comment on that, but I do know that they watch people in general. As far as being a peeping Tom and watching people get undressed, or watching a couple across the street having sex, I certainly feel that would definitely entice them, because they're creeps in general. So, and they're already watching people all the time. So if that happened, I'm sure they would take note of that, and they probably would start watching the female and trying to talk to her or something, you know, because they're total creeps. So I wouldn't put that past them at all. I mean, when they're looking for prey, okay, they don't care if the person is married, has kids. They don't care about any of that because they're looking for an in. They're looking for an in. They're looking for the female to say, oh, well, you know, my marriage isn't going that good, or he did this, or he did that. Something she's mad about. Okay, now the narcissist has an in. So, they could give a crap if the person is married. That every single person is like, it's like an equal playing field. Like, they're open for business. Like, they're, you know what I mean? Like, they are a potential victim. They are a potential source of supply. It does not matter if they have 6 kids and their husband is some big, you know, 300-pound football player that could kill the narcissist. Like, they don't care. They do not care. They are, you know, you have to understand, they are drug addicts. So they are fearless and relentless in their pursuit of getting supply. So they want to have as many avenues of getting that supply as possible. So they'll make acquaintances with married people. So when they either get divorced and they need a shoulder to cry on, oh, okay, narcissist will be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're looking for any kind of way to get in. And if you're in a vulnerable state, that's even better for them. You know what I mean? Because they can just jump right in and fill that void for you and pretend to be your best friend. So that's it. That's a direct path for them to get into your life. So in terms of narcissists being voyeuristic, they're extremely voyeuristic. They like to be behind the scenes and just watching people and stalking their prey. I believe they enjoy that because they are aware of the rewards. You know, they're kind of like, they're excited about the payout and the rewards that they can get from this potential victim. So, you know, they're just like excited about this, thinking about the ways in which they can hurt and destroy this person. So it becomes like a hunt and a chase, and so I think they kind of enjoy every part of this sick, twisted game. But I think they kind of resent that they're kind of a slave to other people at the same time. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. They like it because they know they need the supply, but then they're kind of a slave to other people, and if they were so godlike, they shouldn't need to be a slave to other people. So, you know, it presents for them a kind of a dichotomy, but they can't change themselves. They have not figured out a way to get out of this mess, so they just, it's a continual loop day after day of where they're constantly searching for prey. So are narcissists voyeuristic? Absolutely. They watch people 24 hours a day. They're constantly on the hunt for new victims. And no one is off limits to the narcissist predator.
Voyeurism is a mental disorder.
Hi, this is Dr. Kira Stillen. We're going to start talking about paraphilic disorders, and these have to do with items of a sexual nature, so probably not great videos for children, to say the least. But this is part of the DSM. We're going to talk about all the issues in there, and this is the 5th edition. This one is voyeuristic disorder. Okay, so individuals with voyeuristic disorder tend to observe others, and the others that are being observed do not know about it. This can be when they're in the process of taking off their clothes, or they're already naked, or they're in a sexual act with somebody else. That's what's considered voyeuristic, if one is observing it and the individual or the individuals have no knowledge of it. Now, to make this a disorder, the individual who's the voyeur has to watch and then begin to have fantasies about being involved with the person in a sexual nature for more than 6 months. And these desires, these fantasies, they're present and they start to get in the way of the person's work, their relationships, their friendships, their relationships with family, and they're not productive because of it. So if that's the case, that is when we go ahead and diagnose them with voyeuristic disorder. Now, sometimes this is so disturbing that the individual has to go to an institution to help with the therapy or the treatment. And one of the reasons why this is because voyeuristic disorder can often meld into other sexual issues as well. And to be able to kind of see this early and make sure that it's taken care of early is really important, because crimes that have to do with the sexual nature tend to be awful for the victim, as well as they tend to carry the longest rates of incarceration. So it's a good thing to be able to find these early and deal with them. So sometimes they're institutionalized, but to be able to be in remission, if a professional can say, okay, well, they're over this, means they have to live in an uncontrolled environment. Let's say they've gone out of the institution, they now are living on their own in the same type of setting that they were before. If they can go 5 years without this observation, without people knowing it, and or the fantasies as well, we consider that person in remission. Now, an individual that doesn't act out or play on these fantasies, we label that as voyeuristic sexual interest. We don't label it voyeuristic disorder until they have acted upon it with somebody playing the role of non-consenting individuals. So, all right. Lastly, I took a look at some of the laws that were out there, because when you look at mental illness, there's the law aspect, and we don't always get into the law aspect with things. So I wanted to kind of find out what was out there, and there wasn't a ton. Federal law, though, voyeurism, so I looked at Iowa because that's where I'm from, and the only thing they had on that was stating that voyeurism should not be considered a disability. So nobody should get any of the items that somebody with a disability would have or would gain. But there was a law out there known as Video Voyeurism Law of 2004. And what this is that if someone makes a film where they're observing somebody else that is not aware that they're there, there needs to be a reasonable amount of privacy where the person believes that they're alone, that they feel that they can get changed or dressed without anyone's knowledge or without anybody seeing it. So that could be a bedroom, a bathroom, changing room. And if someone else videotapes them taking out their clothes, being in a sexual act, or being nude, and if they then sell that image or send it or share it with others, this is absolutely illegal. And they can be convicted of a 1st or 2nd degree they also have, if they also have a first or second degree conviction already. I mean, it's illegal if they sell it or send it out, but this is considered a Class E felony, and the person can serve 1 to 4 years in prison for this. So I just wanted to kind of stick the law in there too and make sure we covered that with the mental illness. Even the viewing of someone underneath their clothes. So even if your camera catches underneath somebody's skirt or down their blouse or whatever, maybe there's a mirror on somebody's shoes with and they're videotaping that, it's illegal. And then any filming of a minor in a voyeuristic manner in any way is absolutely illegal. Just having pictures of anyone naked under the age, if you're 18 and you have pictures of somebody under the age of 18, that is absolutely illegal. So you need to be really, really careful that you don't have pictures of anything or any person's body under the age of 8. Not that anybody would have that, but it's absolutely illegal. It's considered child pornography. No videos, no photos. Psychologists who wanted to study pedophilia cannot, it's tough because they cannot have any type of image. So when they're doing testing, there's a special term for it. It's like penile something, where they check out the blood flow to the penis during this test, and they never can get a good range on it because it's absolutely illegal to have child porn. So they end up, having to dress up people that are 18 to make them look younger. And, it's one of those things that if we want science on it, you don't want to hurt anybody in the process, but we also want to take these issues seriously. It's been so taboo in our society, but in order to get rid of the problem, we've got to discuss the problem, and we have to understand it from a scientific sense. So, maybe they can get to a point where they lock that stuff up and have some type of ethical watch over each other. But in order to really get this down, get sexual dysfunctions and the rate of it down, we really need to take a look at it scientifically. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got others coming on paraphilic disorders or sexual issues with the sexual nature to it. Also, if you like the video, please click the like button, and I will be back. Thank you very much.
Voyeurism is against the law.
Technology has facilitated the commission of sexual offenses such as voyeurism, cyberflashing, distribution of intimate images, often referred to as revenge pornography. And there has been an increase in such cases. These offenses are currently criminalized under the Films Act and Penal Code. We want to create specific offenses in the Penal Code to provide a proper framing for such offenses and adequate punishments. Voyeurism involves observation or recording of someone doing a private act without the person's consent. Some of the more commonly known forms of voyeurism include upskirting, downblousing. Recently, there has been a spotlight on these offenses because of the incident in NUS involving Mr. Nicholas Lim. These offenses are currently dealt with under insulting of modesty in the Penal Code and Films Act. The current laws, in my view, do not adequately address the range of offenses, including voyeuristic recordings and the distribution of such material on the internet. So we propose to introduce specific offenses involving voyeurism, which will define the offending behavior and provide for adequate punishment. The proposals, members know, as I said earlier this afternoon, well predate the incident involving Mr. Lim. In fact, the bill was tabled in Parliament before that incident came public. And it was before that incident took place as well in terms of working on it and drafting. We have also introduced a presumption where the accused person has made a recording of another person doing a private act or of their private parts. It will be presumed that the person recorded or observed did not consent to the observation or recording. Sometimes there are evidential challenges because you can find the images, you can't identify who the person is. This will get over the legal burden, and presumption is that there was no consent, and the accused can then say why there was consent. The new offenses will criminalize peeping Tom behavior, making of voyeuristic recordings, distribution, possession or gaining access to such recordings. Also, modifying any part of a building's structure to make voyeuristic recordings will also be criminalized specifically. This was recently reported in international media as being a very serious issue in South Korea. The proposed maximum imprisonment terms for the observance, possession, and making of such voyeuristic recordings is now going to be 2 years if the bill gets passed. That's double the current maximum 1-year punishment for the offense of insulting modesty under Section 509. There is, I think, a clear need to deter the proliferation of voyeuristic recordings. So distribution of voyeuristic recordings will attract a higher punishment, a maximum imprisonment term of 5 years if you go around distributing this. The court may also impose a fine and caning for these offenses. So refer to clause 120. We have also introduced a new offense to criminalize sexual exposure, which is commonly known as flashing. There has been a prevalence of this. Persons intentionally send unsolicited pictures of their genitalia over social media or messaging platforms. That will be criminalized. Penalties for that offense will be enhanced where the victim is below 14 years old. Distribution or threat to distribute intimate images. We will introduce new offense for distribution, threat to distribute. It's colloquially known as revenge porn. Intimate images could become widely shared and on platforms may be impossible to completely remove, and they have the potential to cause great harm to the victim. The offense will exclude images such as caricatures, cartoons of a person performing sexual acts. So lewd caricature of a person may amount to harassment, but not something that could be mistaken as an intimate image of the person depicted. Maximum penalty for this offense would be imprisonment up to 5 years with the option of fine and caning. Where the offense is committed against a person below 14 years old, imprisonment will be made mandatory. New offense will also cover cases where a person unlawfully accesses databases or recordings that contain intimate images. That's also in clause 120.
Some victims might suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. Some targeted individuals join the gang stalkers.
You may have heard Stockholm Syndrome mentioned when people talk about things like true crime or Beauty and the Beast. But what is it really? Where did the term come from? Why does it happen? And how common is it? Well, you're in luck for some answers. We did the research so you don't have to. The robbery that named the condition. Stockholm Syndrome is generally defined as the occurrence where hostages form emotional attachments to their captors and or begin to feel sympathy for them. Criminologist and psychiatrist Nils Bejerot first coined the term Stockholm Syndrome in 1973. That year, 4 people were held hostage during a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden. Yet, upon being released, the hostages didn't show any anger towards their captor. Instead, they defended him and even refused to testify against him in court. Since then, Stockholm Syndrome has been spotted in various situations, not just hostages and kidnappings. It has been recorded in victims of sexual abuse, human trafficking, discrimination, terror, and political and religious oppression as well. The circumstances that create it. Psychologists believe that this reaction happens as a coping mechanism and can occur as a result of hopelessness and frustration. A victim may feel the police aren't doing their job well enough, which creates a resentment that the captor can relate to. However, the victim doesn't automatically agree with their oppressor. In almost all cases of Stockholm Syndrome, the captor has to spend face-to-face time with the victim for this to occur. Gradually, the victim may start to view them more as a person than a villain. The dark results of Stockholm Syndrome. Once released, victims of abduction, or those situations listed above, may develop the following symptoms: compassion for one's captor, refusal to admit their wrongdoing, flashbacks of the event, increased aggression, depression, guilt, and post-traumatic stress disorder. They may also develop a dependency on their aggressor, where they feel they cannot survive without them. The good news is most people in hostage situations do not develop Stockholm Syndrome. The rarity of captor compassion. The FBI's hostage barricade system says that 92% of people in these circumstances do not present any symptoms that would indicate Stockholm Syndrome. However, it is still very real and should be taken seriously. How serious can it get? Each person's reaction to a hostage situation is different. However, there are a few famous examples where the attachment one had to their abductor went very far. Natasha Kampusch. Natasha Kampusch was abducted as a child in 1998. After her abuser's death, she kept a picture of him in her wallet and even bought the house she was held in. Patty Hearst. After Patty Hearst, the granddaughter of William Hearst, was taken by a terrorist group in 1974, the media went into a flurry. But, to everyone's surprise, she eventually joined the group that took her. Mary McElroy. Mary McElroy was kidnapped in 1933. After being rescued from her abductors, she claimed they were only businessmen. She visited them in jail and eventually committed suicide, leaving a note that said, "My 4 captors were probably the only people on earth who don't consider me an utter fool. You have your death penalty now. So, please, give them a chance."
Thanks for watching this video.
There are hundreds of websites that sell voyeuristic materials.
This is stuff that's maybe done to people who carry really valuable information, right? If a government would go through a procedure like this, I'm assuming this obviously, but if they would go through the effort of trying to extract information or influence individuals in that manner that you describe, then there must be a good reason for it, right? They need to have a good reason. They want important information that can save lives or give you a military benefit or whatever it is.
He's not saying that the technology doesn't exist and that the gov isn't doing this. He will say it in his next video. I will point it out.
Most of these people that you see in these documentaries and in these YouTube videos, actually all of them, not most, I haven't seen any exception.
These are just a few exceptions/examples. There are hundreds of similar cases.
The Empire of Thieves, aka Freemasons. Stephen Schellen.
No, I want this to be known. They steal from you, and then we're going to go out of our way to make you, make you appear nuts. We're just going to take everything. No one will ever believe you. How many times have I heard that? No one will ever believe you. Taunting me. Hit on my life. This guy that was sent up to put a hit on me actually told me the truth after I read him a letter where my ex-wife said, "I betrayed you, lied to you, cheated you, saved the children from me. Morgan won't survive, my son, because he's older and he's been around you and knows what love is. Lily, my younger daughter, she may survive because she hasn't been around you as much, so she doesn't know what love is. Oh, that letter didn't mean anything to any of those people. But this is what they can do to you. So you want to get in the acting business? You think it's just about talent and, No. I didn't do anything. I didn't steal from anyone. They stole from me. They have destroyed my life. But why? Because perhaps someone stole a TV treatment idea off me and made millions and millions of dollars? Perhaps that TV series was due south? Or, I won't say perhaps, because it's not perhaps. I started a production company with John A. Hardy, who had been a lawyer, who claimed his father ran CSIS, which is Canada's CIA. And he was adamant that we call the company Lionsgate. And its origins were from Vancouver. And he had raised money off people from the Vancouver Stock Exchange, which was still in existence then, and then it was subsequently shut down because it was in violation of so many different inside trading laws and whatnot. It was corrupt as hell, so they shut it down. John Hardy told me in April or May of 1996 to keep my mouth shut about my children or I was dead. I was being followed then 24/7, harassed, death threatened, blacklisted, I mean, you name it. I had every kind of crazy surveillance you can imagine. Most of it I kept to myself because I knew it sounded absolutely crazy, such as someone breaking in the place where you're staying when you have the only key apparently, and you come home to find all the furniture moved around. What, do you think I was so stupid as to tell anyone? How could I? They'd just say I was having a nervous breakdown. So I fought, and I fought. I'd make notes. I'd take photos of where furniture was before I left. So I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that someone was coming in and moving things around. Why, you might ask? Well, just think about it. If some wild guy, an actor, is claiming that his furniture is being moved around, he's being followed by cars, dark cars with tinted windows, what does that sound like? That sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? So who the hell was I going to tell? And the police changed their police reports when they'd come to my farm where my children and ex-wife were. All the insanity that ensued. I am so sick of this. And I didn't know until, 2003, that there were other people that had gone through the same kind of targeting I was going through, the same kind of gang stalking harassment. And it's funded by government agencies. And they do it all around the world in different countries. US, Canada, Australia, primarily, I think. England. But it goes on all over. They mind fuck you. And if you go for any kind of mental health, any help, well, you're diagnosed as what? Delusional, worst case schizophrenic. I went to shrinks and I went to doctors. I was lucky. When I first went to a psychiatrist, I cried in her office and told her what was going on. She said, I don't know what to prescribe you because I don't believe you're mentally ill or suffering from any type of mental illness. But I don't know how to help you with this. She knew I was telling the truth, and I didn't hold back. That saved my life in some ways, because I had a little bit of understanding where the friends and the agents and the ex-producers and directors are all screaming, forget about your fucking kids and maybe you'll work again. Like that was ever an option. No, you forget about your kids. And there I was just, trying to swim to shore, but there was no shoreline. So making it in Hollywood was easy peasy compared to surviving this, what I have lived through for 23 years. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. So Lisa Kirk Jerry, you pig, Jordan, Susan, Glenn. I'm going to continue on this. I will itemize what transpired. I will put it all down, man, so you can see it for yourself.
Magnus Olsson.
And perhaps a helmet with a full gold wood shield, we don't know, but nobody has the means, the money to pay for it, because the first things the perpetrators is mostly Secret Services, is to strip money off the guys. You had been a very wealthy guy, you built up your own company in bed production, and were a millionaire, and the first thing they did, that they crashed your company and stripped you of all your money. For those who don't know who you are a so-called targeted individual. That means a person who is suffering from a kind of radiation which was quite unknown until recently, and you heard voices in your skull, and they put a little chip into your body, and they can cause you pain in every part of your body they want. They can read your thoughts, your mind. They can pick up memories and so on.
When I worked for a civil service, I was told that there are actually rather few that have the
Can you walk away from it? Yes, towards it. Yes, can you walk away from it? Towards it. Yes. Can you wait? Just move your head away. Walk away? No. That's what you said. Towards it. Wait. Away from it.
Yes.
Head away. A little more curve. Yeah. From towards it. Inside. Yeah. And towards it. A little bit to this side.
No, exactly. I got that.
It can be from the middle of the brain too, right?
Yeah, from the middle of the brain.
Yeah, I feel something too out in there.
There's a reading on the inside.
Those are very clear. What is not clear is where in the face.
No, he has in his forehead.
Homeopathic gold is aurum metallicum, that is two Latin words which means gold medal, aurum metallicum. And in the homeopathic world they have different levels how much they thinned it out. The D12, for example, there are still some molecules. I think it's up to D30, and then there are no molecules left. Then it is only vibration patterns. And we started, I think, with D12, D30, and C100. C is a higher potency, which I took to you from Germany.
Yeah.
We started with the lowest one only.
Yeah.
And what was your impression? What was the result of the first bottle you tested?
Well, in the beginning, I discovered that after taking the gold, I discovered that I felt more normal, so to speak. The vibration or the frequencies that they are using with the carrier of magnetic and electric electric scalar waves. They couldn't reach me and make me weak in the same manner as they are used to, because you have like a mood caster or a psycho design that is always pressuring your mind down, and you get weak, you get very weak, and then when they use the pinpoint, the overstimuli, it didn't have the same effects like it had before. So it was for sure doing quite a lot for me, even in the beginning. But it's very important to take this every morning and every night. And later on, I tried to mix.
How much do you take every morning? And every night?
I take 6 small balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I take 6 of the D30, and then I had the D12, I had the D200 as well. What I then tried out was to mix them together. So I mixed the D30 and the D12, and I discovered that it even went even stronger for the better side of my mind and my thoughts and my whole being. It was for sure doing quite a lot for me. So I think that the goal is very important for TIs to try it out, and you shouldn't give it up, because it can take some time before it has the full effect. But for sure, you will discover a difference.
Yes.
God.
So I had to leave again, and it was like in the middle of the night. I had to work in the morning, not too far from there. So I decided to go to my workplace and lock myself in and just sleep there, because if I fell asleep, I wouldn't get up again to work.
Totally exhausted.
Yeah, totally exhausted. So I just laid down on the couch on the reception, so at least someone would wake me up when it was time to work. So and during that night, the period, there was actually something very strange happening. Also in the hotel, on the V2K, someone was using a synthetic voice. Usually, I can't distinguish the voices from ordinary voices, but one person had a synthetic voice, and most likely a foreigner, or I believe it's a US consultant or something like that.
Perhaps a computer?
And it's translation system. You know, they have translation systems that basically just translate directly into, but use synthetic voice to answer. And this person was very interested in 2 things. First, my knowledge of Tesla technology. I have been following it. Because I have this technical background, I'm a bit nerdish, and I love to study technical stuff and like this. So I've been following what was going on in the underground regarding Tesla technology in the field of energy and stuff like that, because I believe that might be interesting to see what develops.
Tesla, the great Croatian researcher, making the electricity in New York in the end of the 19th century.
I think he was very, it's just a very interesting field.
He was before his time.
Yes, many years. And they are actually, a lot of people are looking into his old things. He was written off as a kook back then, but a lot of his theories actually are valid. But I had not done experiments or done anything, inventions or discoveries regarding his technology. I was just following what was going on out of pure interest, see where things are going in. And the second thing they were very interested in was an invention. I had invented a microphone that I was trying at the time to find partners to get it started, either to make a prototype.
This was before 2009.
Yes, it was like the year and 2 years before I've played with that, and finally now it's time to build a prototype and see if we can sell it off or manufacture it or whatever. And they were interested in that, basically. And that tells me that either this consultant was paid off by that mean, that basically getting whatever information he could use for as maybe as a payment for his help or whatever. That was basically in the hotel room. They was like completely drawing everything out of me. Of course, the Tesla, there was nothing useful, but the microphone, they got completely how it works, and all of the invention.
So they milked your brain?
Completely, yes. I was in a very scared and mood and stuff like that. I was a very easy victim at that time. And in the morning there, when my colleagues arrived, they wake me up and I looked like shit, so they could see immediately I was not fit for work. So they sent me off to my doctor and got me, you have to get reported sick and stay off for a while till you're fit again.
And that is a doctor who knows you?
Yes, I was trying to get there to my doctor who knows me. But unfortunately he wasn't there that day. A young woman was there instead. And she was completely, I didn't like her at all. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue sky, she was asking me if I was hearing voices and stuff like that, and then it dawned on me, they're trying to get me committed to a mental hospital. But why else would she ask questions like that? Out of nothing.
Very strange.
Yes, and then it dawned on me that she was intelligence hired, and that's why my own doctor wasn't there, so they were definitely trying to, if they can't kill me, they're trying to get me committed to a hospital where they can do anything.
Pay extra attention to this part.
Because if you get committed, you're stripped completely of your human rights, and you are, in Denmark, you're also deprived of any chance of getting an autopsy if you die in their care.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah. So there's no chance it would ever get out. It would be a perfect murder for the intelligence system. And yeah. And then they try to program you into, everything you're not. Basically, make a monster sexually program you into everything you're not. And yeah, that was terrible. And now it's like, then it started developing a scheme of smoke and mirrors that where they tried to imply who was guilty, who was behind all this. And it basically moved around from everybody I ever known, colleagues to family to friends, and trying to put the blame on everybody I've ever known. But I didn't react to it, and I believe that they are trying to either isolate you from your surroundings, make you make false accusations about who's behind it, and also to, if you say anything about it or try to confront people with it, you'll make a fool of yourself. And it's all about, from that point on, about psychology, where they're trying to make you look mentally insane, mentally disturbed, make a fool of you in any way possible. And was it possible that they pinpointed all your acquaintances and people around you by a usual research, or was it because they had access to your memory? They had access to my memory, or not my, I don't know if they have access to my deeper memory, but they can direct my thoughts, and they can basically, it was like an interrogation that lasted for a month. 24/7 interrogation, and at some point they tried to, under the guise of a psychoanalyzing stuff, they basically started from my childhood and analyzed my entire lifespan. And they asked you in your brain, yes, you answered. It was an intelligent correspondence. Yes, because you're tricked into this that now that it's the good guys, good cop, bad cop, now that's good guys and you want to help them, and okay, what can we do for him? And it was like psychoanalysis sort of stuff, where they take your mind from childhood to present day. Mm-hmm. And the first time around I was fooled. So basically they know everybody I've been in contact with. And now they try to exploit that from one person to the next person all the time. They later on tried the same thing again, but now I was of course aware of it, that it was a trick, a trap. So I didn't go into it second time, but they were still forcing it. They can force you. It's like interrogations with this directed force. Forced interrogation by directing your thoughts onto a subject or content. And then as soon as you get to the point they want to go subject or whatever they want to know something about, they can loop. They use a feedback loop where they keep projecting the same. So you're stuck in a loop about that until they are satisfied. They want to get all the answers. Your thoughts go off in all directions until they're satisfied that they know everything about that subject. And over time, I developed a system to break this system. And this sounds strange, but it's actually possible to build a firewall to your brain.
Yeah, why not?
Yes.
It's a biological computer.
Yes. So what I used is, a lot of the words they use, they are the first ones that come to your mind. So you just need one word that's unrelated to what they want to know anything about. And then focus hard on that word. So every time you feel that feedback loop, you can just focus on that word immediately. And
which is not connected to what they are
trying to look for. Okay. And as the loop goes on, you just focus more on that word. And they loop and they try to steer you back onto that what they want to know and something about. You focus about that word that's not related. It could be something like education, colleagues, anything. Nothing. It doesn't have to be any particular word, just unrelated to the subject. And by doing that, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus to break it in the beginning. But it becomes, over time, it becomes an automatic firewall. And now it's fully automatic in my case. So every time my brain, even before I sense it, goes into a feedback loop, a word comes up and it breaks it automatically.
Always the same word?
Yeah, no. It's just a word that is used recently in the V2 case. Usually it doesn't have to be, but that's what comes to mind.
Interesting.
Yes? That's just the first one. You have to be quick. Find any word, and it's just basically the word that comes to mind is a word they use often. It's like everything they... So you can break it, and you can program yourself this way to break it. So it breaks out. Now it's completely automatic.
That's
my brain senses by itself. But a
good tip for other victims
yes.
To imitate. Yeah.
And this way you can avoid this kind of interrogation. But it took me some months to learn it, and before it became fully automatic, because you have to entrain yourself. And I found out actually that by just taking one finger, or just one part, and stiffen it completely, and just then I could actually break the hypnosis. They were not able to hypnotize me in the same way as long as I had just here, but it became like really painful. I had to sort of basically hurt myself all the time not to be susceptible to the hypnosis and stuff like that.
2 targeted individuals proved gang stalking in court. Levi McKen and Kathleen Watterson.
It is. Okay, I just needed that confirmation. That's what I thought. That's what it is. I'm also tagged. I get the V2K, and it's completely devastated my family. 13 years now.
Oh yeah, it ruins us. I mean, I've lost over $200,000 in this whole fiasco. Plus, you get a master gunsmith. I had a huge gun collection. I mean, really nice firearms that were worth a lot of money. And to only have all of them stolen from me, and then the cops wouldn't even do anything about the guns being stolen and stuff. And then it's just ridiculous.
I have the same situation here. The authorities are involved. No doubt.
Oh yeah, the authorities were actually happy that that all my guns got taken from me. It's like give me a break. These things are worth a lot of money.
All right,
Anyway.
you're on the road. You're on the road to positive, great things for the rest of us, and we are clinging to you. So Godspeed and God's blessing.
But I said we're trying to help as many TIs as possible. That's what the goal is.
You know what? I'll tell you what. Everybody, and I think there's going to be some monetary compensation. So everybody should send an email to somebody about how much money they think they've lost. So when it comes, the time of reckoning comes, you won't be just something you pulled out of the air.
Yeah.
You can say, no,
not only that, if we come, because I mean this is what this is all about, is all of us coming together, but all of us have lost fortunes.
Well, you understand though that the government, for those of us, and mine is government. I've had people tell me they might be hiring it out to some fusion center, some some private company, but it was government issued, started, and et cetera.
Okay, well, all this is excellent, Levi, because we hear so often from the perps, so many have, that no one, you'll never be able to get the evidence, and no one will ever believe you. Well, this week someone believed us, and so that's that's a very important point.
More than just one person believed this, but the entire people, all the A-lists and everyone in the court completely believed this, and then obviously the perps believed us because they wouldn't have been so shaken up.
Oh, he was literally shaking.
I mean, they had to comfort him and stuff outside the courtroom, so it was a pretty big victory.
Okay, well, I'm just kind of picturing a number of scenarios that we could present. Now, the one that you did here with Kathleen, that will cover a number of situations. The important thing there, though, is that we start gathering and start applying signal evidence, because that's where you catch the perps. We've not really had that type of proof, even though we've had the effects of the signals. We've not until now had a solid case of the signal evidence to present to a court and say, here's what's happening, and for them to believe it.
That's one thing I spoke with Neil about earlier this week, and we spoke for about an hour, and I thought this was a great idea, and this is probably why we were talking for about an hour, because we were bouncing good ideas for shielding and stuff. But he was coming up with a spreadsheet, because we both understand that there's multiple different technology. I think we all know that there's multiple different technologies out there that
at least 8.
Yeah, that are capable of doing this to us, right? And what he was doing was compiling a spreadsheet, basically a database, which I thought was a great idea, where if you're experiencing these certain symptoms, then it falls back to, because each one of the different types of technology they use exhibit different types of symptoms. But like I said, they're all designed to do the same thing in the end. But the thing I thought was ingenious was he was compiling it in a way that, if you're experiencing these types of symptoms, then you're probably getting, this type of attack, and
this kind of illness.
And the point being is a lot of times they'll use multiple different types of attacks, but when you can pinpoint what type of attack you're getting, then you can also, it gives you kind of a step up, going, okay, well, I know why I'm being attacked, and I know what kind of equipment I'm being attacked. Now I just need to come up with the data sets that I need to come up with in order to show that this is where it's coming from, and this is where the attacks are being generated from.
Okay.
So I thought that working with Neil on that, I thought that was an excellent idea, and I think that's probably why we talked about it. We're bouncing ideas off each other for an hour on that one. So you have factual evidence, and not only do you have one piece of factual evidence, but you have 5 or 10 or 15 to back up what you're saying. So, the more you have, and the more that everything fits into place, the more that the court's that's obviously going to believe what you're saying and, not try to refute what you're saying and understand what you're saying as well,
And not only that, we didn't even show them the videos of the interference.
Well, the funny thing was we had it all. Well, we had the interference videos of the TV, and I actually explained it all on the stand, and that microwaves were able to do it. And I said,
audio. Talk about the audio.
And I said that also, when I was explaining what sawtooth waves were microwaves, but they look like what a saw blade would look like. And you can actually attach audio signal to the back end of it, and you can also attach a video signal to the back end of it, so you can actually put subliminals in people's heads, and they think they're having voices being talked to them, even though it's not schizophrenia. As well as they can put they can actually implant images into people's heads with the same technology with sawtooth waves. And the reason being is because the waves aren't completely square waves. So on the back end, they can attach audio and they can attach video. And that being the case, you can actually have an auditory hearing effect from it.
They can hear you.
And I go on top of that, and I explained how because the judge actually asked me how would they be able to hear you in your own house. And I said, well, that's actually pretty easy, really. I said, if you're bouncing microwaves from a pulse generator off of anywhere, and then with another sort of a microwave signal, but you're running it out of phase, meaning say you're running one pulse generator, square waves. When the top square wave is hitting the house, you're sending it out. Then you're doing it 180 degrees out of phase, meaning the bottom part of the square wave is coming out when the top part is coming out of the other one. So that creates an interference pattern. And if you have something that it bounces, because it'll bounce back just like radar or sonar, and with that interference pattern, that's when you can pick up the actual audio sounds. That if somebody's talking or something like that, you can actually pick up what they're saying by doing that. And it's through the interference patterns that people are able to pick up what people are hearing, or not hearing, but saying, and they can tell you exactly what you're saying because they're using something to pick up the interference patterns in the microwaves. And once you pick up the interference patterns, all you have to do is run it through your computer, and you can hear the audio effects of the interference pattern.
Hey, Levi. Yeah. Could you tell us? You said the judge read a verdict. Could you tell us pretty much as much as you remember what the verdict, how the judge read the verdict?
The verdict was that he concluded that there was microwave harassment going on and noise harassment, electronic harassment, and that.
Oh, really? The judge said that?
Yeah, he definitely was convinced of that, and that in the restraining order that it says there's not to be any sort of electronic or EMF. Electromagnetic frequency.
When I wrote up that restraining order, I put everything in there. I decided to go for it.
And, besides the fact that, you can't come in within 100 yards, it doesn't matter, because he's not doing it that way. But he made sure to put that there can't be any electronic forms of harassment or any EMF or anything like that that can be linked back to him as part of the...
But this is an unusual restraining order because this is the first time I've heard of a restraining order where the defendant was directed to not, even though he was not within, say, so many yards or feet of the house, he was directed not to, how did he put it, harass the defendant from the defendant from...
But via any electronic means is how they put it.
Right, okay, because did they look at this as sort of like some type of an attack weapon, this microwave harassment?
I think the judge understood it as a directed energy weapon, and that the way it was directed, it could be totally a microwave-directed energy weapon.
They can see and hear everything I see and hear.
Yep.
It's like they're looking through my eyes. I don't really know anyone here in Oklahoma that I can talk to. I keep missing Angel. Angel has contacted me a couple of times, but I can't seem to.
I really like to go through a lot of the technology with you, but email me and I can go through more of it with you.
Summary.
Yeah, just a summary of what's happening to you, but I can tell you that microwaves have a unique ability to go through what's called the blood-brain barrier. They call it the BBB, and this is actually how drugs work. And for instance, if somebody takes illicit drugs or if they take prescription drugs, it doesn't matter. Once it gets into your bloodstream, it's able to cross through the blood-brain barrier because drugs affect your brain really more than they affect your body. And so by the drugs being able to pass through your blood-brain barrier, that's when the drugs take effect and take a hold. But see, microwaves do the same thing. And it actually causes the first thing it causes is overproduction of red blood cells, and that's what's able to cross through the blood-brain barrier. But, for instance, they're also able to create infections as well as viruses and stuff like that. So if your body catches some sort of bacterial infection or a virus or something like that, or they're hitting your skin or something like that, it causes your autoimmune response to skyrocket. And once that happens, that allows the T cells to actually go through the blood-brain barrier, and it goes up into your brain. And then inside the middle of your brain, and it's part of your limbic system, it's called your thalamus. And right in the middle of your thalamus, you got another gland called your hypothalamus, and they call that your primitive brain. And the funny thing is there's been tons of studies done on this, and actually papers written on this. But your thalamus actually picks up microwaves, and so by then targeting your thalamus, they're able to not only do the auditory, like you hear things, that aren't your thoughts and stuff like that, or voices that aren't your things that you say, that kind of thing.
Right.
But they're also, because of where the thalamus is located, and the eyeballs are one of the most unprotected part of the body, they're able to implant images where they can be able to see through your eyes or hear what you're talking about and stuff like that. And like I said, that's done through interference patterns, and they're using actually multiple microwave generators, and they're just phased out of they're out of phase somewhat, and they pick up the interference pattern. So if they're hitting you with microwaves that are going through your blood-brain barrier, causing your brain to swell up and causing you to see things that really aren't there, or being able to be seen through your eyes, or putting thoughts in your head that aren't yours, or talking to you. And that's done with microwaves. But then secondly, if they take another one that's out of phase, they pick up the interference patterns, and they can pick up your speech wherever you're talking in your house. And that's another thing about smart meters people don't realize, is because they're microwaves, you can be anywhere in your house and it can act like a bug. I mean, it can act like a bug without even actually having a bug in your house, because they can pick up everything you're saying through the microwave signals in your smart meter. But second of all, they can actually, you don't even need a bug in your house, because a smart meter can tell when you get up in the morning and jump in the shower, because all of a sudden, your hot water heater turns on, or you go and open your refrigerator door in the middle of the night to get a midnight snack, or, you turn on the fan because it's hot, or you turn on your computer. They can tell every piece of equipment that you turn on, so they get a good idea about what you're doing in your whole daily life. They can put a whole picture of what you're doing just based on the fact of what the smart meter, when they get surges in different spikes of your house, and that are correlated with your fridge or your oven or, your hot water heater or whatever. So So that's the technology behind it.
Because what you've done is opened yet another door for us where it's been recognized and it's been identified as electronic harassment. This is critical. So, with that said,
proven.
Yeah, and not only that, it's not only critical, but it's proven. So that means that, you know, it wasn't just for us, it was for every TI out there, meaning that, you know, this is provable, and on top of it, you know, we were able to prove it being done, but that shows that every TI out there that, you know, they're not crazy. This is really happening, you know?
Yeah, I never thought I was, frankly.
Frank Tufano.
At what point is it too much? Every single aspect of my life has some type of negativity, adversity, conflict, being attacked by people, very, very little support. You know, there's only a handful of people in my life and, you know, a portion of my subscriber base that I am very thankful for. Unfortunately, that negativity has overwhelmed my life, especially for the past year or so. And all I've wanted to do is use my intelligence, creativity, genuine care for people to continue to educate and grow my channel through health videos, fitness, entertainment, whatever it may be. The end goal is to make as many people as happy as possible. And in order to do that, you know, I have to play the game a little bit. I have to try to get popular, make some money, you know, spend advertising, do whatever I can to reach out to as many people as possible to make a positive change for, you know, as big of the population as I can. Unfortunately, a lot of the things I say in order to do that go against mainstream consensus, saying Wi-Fi is dangerous, which not one other person in the mainstream has mentioned. Not one person has the integrity to tell the truth. Therefore, what I'm saying compromises their businesses, and if the health advice and the things I'm saying make everyone else wrong or contradict what other people are saying, of course they don't want me here. I'm constantly asking myself, what's the best video to make my channel grow to reach more people? I cover so much stuff on a variety of topics: the carnivore diet, general health, food, recipes, news, fitness, all in-depth, well-researched videos, consistently every day. I put so much work into everything, and these past few weeks, I've been asking myself, what's the point? If I'm not allowed to grow on this platform, and a lot of you guys tell me to stay positive, keep making videos, but how long can I do that? Until they make it so I'm only getting a few hundred views per day? And for what? So that these larger influencers can continue to plagiarize and copy what I say word for word just to sell their products? The main reason for me making this video today is just to ask you guys to please visit my channel. You know, don't worry about staying subscribed, because I know they're removing people every day. You know, if you can bookmark my page, visit the channel, watch my videos, share them with other people, share them on Facebook. And I'm not at the point where I'm desperate for financial support, and I don't think I'm going to get to that point. But let's just say I'm making approximately 10% of what I was last year on YouTube. You know, and I hope to continue to provide value and health services to those who do support my businesses. But you know, without the money to be able to afford to advertise, without the natural social media growth, I haven't been able to grow my customer bases for my businesses. It's just another overwhelming negative thing I can't really get past. Another big reason I couldn't stop myself from making this video today, you know, I really do want to try to, you know, keep a positive message on my channel, not really complain or talk about stuff like this. There have just been so many weird things going on, from the strategic slander comments on my channel to every schmuck with like 500, 1,000 subscribers making a video trying to defame me every week. I really have never seen this type of behavior against anyone else on YouTube before. We've been just under 100,000 subs for over a month now. We hit 100K, I think, like 5 weeks ago, and then I've been tapering down. I was at 99.9K for a few weeks. Now we're at 99.7K, and I have, you know, a bunch of screenshots of people saying they were removed from this channel for no apparent reason, and that's the ones I saw. So I'm imagining they're removing at least a few dozen people from my channel every day, and that is out of my control. But that makes me question what tactics these people are planning against me. You know, the carnivores, the vegans, all these people in the club, constant harassment, gang stalking, and every single one of my videos for the past month or two has had some type of specific attack on me. Plus, there are videos that have been taken down, which has never happened before on my channel. When I filmed, you know, the empty you-know-what in New York City, when I spoke about that documentary being like fake, those videos were taken off of YouTube, and that's never happened before. You know, are they taking away my real viewers and filling in fake ones, or their own minions for some type of future plan where they take even more away? They tried to do it in the past, you know, with the carnivore and vegan stuff. You know, create an illusion when I call people out about a certain topic that I lose a viewer base, an excuse for them to suppress me. You know, when I talked about the carnivores, when I called out the carnivores, they had like 1,000 people that were instantly able to click unsubscribe on my channel. That's what these people do. They create the illusion that I did something bad for my channel, but that's not reality. So it's very possible that somewhere in the near future, next few weeks, few months, these people plan some more personal attacks on my character, on my channel, and I'm just going to continue to lose viewers. I mean, the amount they're suppressing me, I don't think that's going to happen at this point. You know, they're just throttling all my videos. Most of you probably know this to some degree, but basically all of these other influencers on YouTube, most of them are in the club. Low-level peons working for the elite, and in order for their success, they have to discredit me because I am what they are pretending to be. They put up a similar image to myself about nutrition and health, that they want to help people, but then they steer people in the direction of buying their products, doing things that appear as healthy that aren't actually healthy, taking supplements that don't work, eating foods that have hidden downsides. You know, like a carnivore pushing feedlot beef without disclosing all of the estrogen, negative chemicals in it, downsides of the diet, that it might corrode your liver into a chunk of iron. But since these people have thousands to hundreds to dozens, whatever, they have people working for them, and these people will do two main things: post positive comments to support the influencer's channel, as well as advertise that influencer's channel to others. What's that thing, like, everyone wants to be cool and like part of the party? If you create the illusion that someone's cool and they're smart and they're knowledgeable by propping them up on podcasts, by having all these people say good things about them, it eventually becomes the truth. You know, anyone who's on the Joe Rogan podcast, this is a good example of that. That's the ultimate prop up. And there's also tactics on social media like spamming people to review a book. Oh, hey, yeah, what do you think of this guy's book? Or oh, yeah, this guy said this about this vitamin. What do you think about that? And that's that person hiring people to strategically market himself. And because that person has all of those people working for him to post comments on other people's channels, on other people's social media, those other people believe this new illusion is created that your viewers want you to review that book, to talk about that topic that person spoke about, but in reality, it's just a few dozen people tricking you into doing so. And if you have that illusion created, you're going to believe it to some degree. I'm used to the gaslighting and lying, so I recognize it, but it works on most people and most smaller influencers. It's how they build their brand, feed off all of the smaller influencers, and then use a larger network. I'm sure some of you guys wonder, hey, where did this doctor come from? Where did this guy come from? Who's this new guy on this podcast? They have these plants, these industry plants. They put them on a few different podcasts. They make up a story. They give them credentials. They say certain things. They do this, they do that. At the end goal, all they want to do is steer people in the wrong direction. Not only do those people they hired do that marketing stuff, create that illusion to prop those people up, they attack people like me. Anyone who opposes them, points out what they're doing, they want me gone. Any means possible. Personal attacks on my sexuality, on my family, as if my personal life has anything to do with, you know, me spreading my health information and trying to help people. Like, what do I have to make a video telling people I'm not gay? Is that what I have to do at this point? I mean, I think I might actually have to do that. I really don't know. They use that sexuality stuff to turn off the low IQ people. And there have been way too many fake reviews slandering my book I wrote, my businesses, Frankie's Free Range Meat, organ supplements, Frankie's Naturals. These clowns want all the money for themselves. And the stuff these people get away with is unbelievable. I mean, the raw alignment stuff with ButcherBox a few months back was hysterical. And now John Venus is working with the carnivores. Ooh-wee! That's a testament to how they are all in one big club together to make money and control you. There was a comment on my video yesterday. Oh, Frank Tufano is selling grain-fed meat. I was like, this is unbelievable. They will literally turn what I'm saying against me. I have been calling out the carnivores for selling grain-fed meat disguised as grass-fed for the past 2 years, and now they're telling me that's what I'm doing. I've been calling people out for plagiarizing and copying my content for 2 years, and now they're telling me I'm copying and plagiarizing other people. It's comical. The gaslighting, it's hysterical what they will try to do and pull off, and they will have dozens and dozens of people say it, you know, to the point where they try to get to people to believe it. But logically speaking, it's absolutely ridiculous. First of all, grain-fed meat from a wholesale perspective, I shouldn't even have to explain myself. Grain-fed meat's more expensive than grass-fed meat from a wholesale perspective. And I have demonstrated people copying me word for word. Guys, just because someone else wears a shirt and I wear a shirt, I can't make this stuff up. They see me as the biggest threat because I point out their marketing lies, low product quality. I have better products for a more affordable price, and I don't care about profit. All I care about is making people happy and healthy. But these people are so far on the other end of the spectrum, they will sell you the lowest quality dog crap for a price higher than what I'm offering. So if I have the integrity, if I don't care about that, they can't win. If I don't care about profit, if I have integrity, they can't win. They're able to stay afloat because they control all modern media sources. Businesses do get what they deserve. They fail. But that's what astroturfing is for. That's why controlling the media allows you to have a crappy business. They just create the same business again under a different name selling the same garbage. Every single video I've posted for the past few months, there have been dozens to hundreds of people in the comments upvoting a specific negative agenda, and it's different every day. One day I talk about Wi-Fi and they'll create this weird, few people saying, oh, I sleep next to a router and I'm fine. If I talk about peanut butter, they'll blame, oh, the reason people can't eat peanut butter is peanut allergies. Oh, they'll throw in some Bible Christian stuff here and there, and I should really make a list and take notes of this stuff. Point is, there are hundreds of losers getting paid scraps to create this illusion that my channel isn't successful. And by doing so, it kind of gives the platform an excuse to suppress my videos. I mean, how else would you get rid of someone who is bound to be successful? The level of nutrition information on my channel is unmatched. These other people don't do research to improve people's health. They do research on a specific product and make up a plan to sell it. I do that the other way around. I research a problem, I find the true solution, and then if there is a product to be recommended or to be sold, then I might mention it. Usually I'm not selling it myself. And not only that, they'll steal other people's information and twist it to fit their agenda. For instance, when I had the iron overload problems, and I still do, and I tell people, hey, you shouldn't consume liver for iron overload because it's high in iron, it's high in things that can make your liver function worse and harder. But the carnivores took that and said the copper in liver is actually good for iron overload, which is dangerous and incorrect advice, but hey, they can sell you a liver powder or a liver supplement. When these people slander my name on other channels, various social media forums, review pages, whatever it may be, that creates a bad first impression for my channel, And it makes it difficult to grow when they create these rumors and these ideas about me. And not only were they doing that, they had to deplatform me from Reddit, from Facebook. My name is completely banned. You know, I'm banned on Instagram too. And it really is pathetic. They couldn't slander me well enough because people saw the honesty and integrity in my videos. So hey, then they just say, no, you can't be on here anymore. They control the platforms. They control what people see. And as with what's going on in the world right now, you have hundreds of thousands to millions of people spreading lies, working together to control the majority, the billions of people. If I'm not able to grow my channel, make more money, build my businesses, how much longer can I do this? You know, at what point is it just not going to work? You know, on top of this stuff, you know, all of my businesses are stressing me out to my wit's end. You know, the stuff you guys saw yesterday is just the tip. You know, when you have to figure out and do everything yourself, it's unbelievably difficult, and the challenges never stop. I said yesterday I feel like I'm getting crazy because I'm surrounded by craziness. It's unbelievable. You know, there was no food on the shelves, you couldn't buy meat, and these clowns were still talking about the carnivore diet. You have vegans blaming meat for what's going on in the world, saying that animals are spreading diseases. You know, fitness people are showing you workouts from their state-of-the-art home gyms they conveniently built several months before this happened. They're putting up Wi-Fi towers near us and farms that can make us sick and control us and our food supply, and no one else is talking about it. Why is Ice Age Farmer able to talk about the food supply and he's not suppressed? Why is David Icke able to talk about the towers and he's basically a household name? How come Joe Imbriano can make videos about weaponry in schools, but I can't? There's a bunch of other names, but you have to understand that these are disinfo agents. They are focusing on a specific topic and guiding people in the wrong directions. It's why you won't see vegans or carnivores branch out of dietary topics. Their job is to control people through these diets, being paid to do so, and telling the truth isn't in their job description. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about this. I just had these thoughts for a while and wanted to get them out there. But this is just to, like, you know, preface you guys to you know, what can possibly happen in the future. And, you know, maybe there's a chance that you guys constantly visiting my page, you know, sharing my channel a bit more, you know, might put us back in a positive direction. So thank you guys for joining me today. I'll see you guys for tomorrow's video.
There are many, way too many victims around the world. I overheard a conversation where the Freemasons have said that they forced a businessman to give them his business, a business worth way over $300,000. This is me and this is my book. I will offer my book for free, as a PDF, only on this video. The link will be in the description. This is what they stole from me. 1. A blueprint for a free energy generator. They hired every single person that I tried to hire to work for me. 2. Aquaponics business plans. 3. Vertical farming business plans. 4. Permaculture design drawings and resources. 5. Organic cleaning products recipes. 6. Healthy eating recipes. And fresh juice recipes enough to open a restaurant. 7. They have opened a healthy eating street food stall in Aarhus, Denmark, with my recipes, in the exact spot where I was planning to. 8. Travel website. 9. Over 40,000 ebooks. 10. Agro-tourism plans and ideas. 11. Water desalination plant business plan. 12. Vertical CO2 city pollution filter. 13. And countless other ideas and business plans. Long story short. At first, they stole from me and tried to kill me. After a few failed murder attempts on my life, they offered me money to join them. Before they offered me money to join them, they told everyone that I was trying to kill them, that I was sleeping with their wife /s, that I was gay, that I owed them money, that I stole from them, etc. If all of what they were saying about me was true, they wouldn't /T have offered me money to join them. I guess that nobody wants a bad person in their group. They ruined my life because I refused to collaborate with them, and I was exposing all of their wrongdoings.
And this. Here he's trying to convince everyone that targeted individuals are worthless and crazy.
Are just random people, average people. Their life is not interesting enough to be observed all the time, right? And when Bella tells the story here that they are referring to some event where she was dancing with this soldier a long time ago, think about, is this something that's of importance to the government, or is that something that's maybe of importance to you, right? Is that something that maybe is stuck in your subconscious memory, maybe something that was for you a nice moment or a memorable moment that is now washed back up through your subconscious and put into these voices, right? It makes, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, really, again, I don't want to judge these people, and I don't know the answer, but in my humble opinion, I just think this is so clearly a construct of the human mind, right? If you learn a little bit about the human mind, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a trained doctor or anything, but if you know about the human mind and how it works and what it can create, right, and how it can really shape your reality around you.
He's a brain expert too. Repeating the same thing, trying to be convincing.
And how you perceive it, then all these descriptions, and especially cases like the story with the soldier, is just evidence that this is your mind playing tricks on you and not some external force affecting your life.
He said, it's just evidence that your mind is playing tricks on you, ha ha ha.
Life, right? And this thought, when I was watching the documentaries, is just going like a red thread through all these documentaries, to all this stuff. When they present their evidence, whatever they do, it always feels like it's not really convincing. It could absolutely also be a construct of your mind.
It's not about the fact that gang stalking is real and the technology exists. It's about his feelings. How dare you hurt his feelings?
Whatever they do, it always feels like it's not really convincing. It could absolutely also be a construct of your mind.
It's not about the fact that gang stalking is real and the technology exists. It's about his feelings. How dare you hurt his feelings?
So that's kind of my take on it. But then you stumble across really interesting other aspects, right? For example, I found this tweet just looking at #targeted individuals on Twitter, and there's this guy who calls himself extremely targeted, Occupy Central CA, or California probably, and he says, I know what it is that creates targeted individuals, and I know how most of it works. A journalist needs to contact me soon. I flew to my home city, and they handed me plenty of information, all through voices in the head. Sounds nutty, but hey, #radio. Right.
There are perps pretending to be targeted individuals, and those perps make a lot of posts and videos, trying to make the real cheese look nuts. Of course, he won't mention that part. He's also a radio expert, and he will explain how all this works, and what can and it can't be done.
Look, you don't need to be a radio engineer or anything to know that this is not how it works. Just because a radio is able to pick up waves and amplify them into sound doesn't mean your head can do this too. And it also doesn't mean that a tiny implant in your head, is at nanotechnology size or whatever, is able to create that sound in your head or pick up waves like this. It just makes no sense. Also, radio waves go out and they are picked up by thousands. It's not that every household receives a different radio wave. If you want to do that, if I'm a targeted individual and my neighbor is one as well, then they would need to radio wave thoughts into my head and his head, and we're just like 100 meters apart, right? So you need technology that radiates different waves in different heads at different... It just makes no sense.
The next guy is an expert and he proved it and explained it in court. Here is the explanation.
No, the funny thing was we had it all. Well, we had the interference videos of the TV, and I actually explained it all on the stand, and that microwaves were able to do it. And I said, you know,
audio is the audio.
And I said that also, you know, when I was explaining what sawtooth waves were microwaves, but they look like saw like what a saw blade would look like. And you can actually attach audio signal to the back end of it, and you can also attach a video signal to the back end of it, so you can actually put subliminals in people's heads, and they think they're having voices being talked to them, even though it's not schizophrenia. As well as they can put they can actually implant images into people's heads with the same technology with sawtooth waves. And the reason being is because the waves aren't completely square waves. So on the back end, they can attach audio and they can attach video. And that being the case, yeah, you can actually have an auditory hearing effect from it.
They can hear you.
And I go on top of that, and I explained how because the judge actually asked me how would they be able to hear you in your own house, and I said, well, that's actually pretty easy, really. I said, if you're bouncing microwaves from a pulse generator off of anywhere, and then with another sort of a microwave signal, but you're running it out of phase, meaning say you're running one pulse generator square waves. When the top square wave is hitting the house, you're sending it out. Then you're doing it 180 degrees out of phase, meaning the bottom part of the square wave is coming out when the top part is coming out of the other one. So that creates an interference pattern. And if you have something that it bounces, because it'll bounce back just like radar or sonar, and with that interference pattern, that's when you can pick up the actual audio sounds. That if somebody's talking or something like that, you can actually pick up what they're saying by doing that. And it's through the interference patterns that people are able to pick up what people are hearing, or not hearing, but saying, and they can tell you exactly what you're saying because they're using something to pick up the interference patterns in the microwaves. And once you pick up the interference patterns, all you have to do is run it through your computer, and you can hear the audio effects of the interference pattern.
He's ignoring all the patents and just picking on a new study.
Anyway, this lady replied, who's obviously also a targeted individual, Palm Beach TI stands for targeted individual. She says, or she found this interesting, this page where she says, Brain Initiative, next generation invasive devices for recording and modulation of the human central nervous system. And she gives this link to grants.gov, which is apparently a website, an American website where you can apply for science grants for funding for your project. So if you go to that website and you search it, that is actually an entry here. So it says Brain Initiative, clinical studies to advance next generation invasive devices for recording and modulation in the human central nervous system. And you're like, oh my God, this is all the proof I need, right? This shit is proven. 100% shit is real, targeted individuals, yada yada. Now you can click that. Application, and if you go down and you read a little bit into it, then you find what it's actually about. So what do we say here? Let me just find it. It's encourage investigators to pursue a small clinical trial to obtain critical information necessary to advance recording and or stimulating devices to treat central nervous system disorders and better understand the human brain.
He doesn't know how it works, but he is ready to explain it to you. Ha 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 ha.
Now you have to know, implants in your brain are often used to combat diseases, to work against diseases, like for instance Parkinson's disease can really be helped with implants in your head that give electrical shocks and kind of even out the misalignment of electricity in your brain, whatever exactly how it works, I have no idea.
What did you just said?
With implants in your head that give electrical shocks and kind of even out the misalignment of electricity in your brain, whatever exactly how it works, I have no idea.
Say that again. Ha 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 ha.
with implants in your head that give electrical shocks and kind of even out the misalignment of electricity in your brain, whatever exactly how it works, I have no idea.
And no idea how it works, but if you read it, it makes sense, okay.
But if you read this, it suddenly makes sense, right? Brain, whatever exactly how it works, I have no idea. But it just feels to me like a lot of these people, they find this one line on Twitter or on this grants.gov, and they're like, oh, that's all the proof I need. We don't need to look into this anymore. This is evidence. There's the government funding these horrible projects where they try to implant our brains.
It's not about the fact that gang stalking is real and the technology exists. It's about his feelings. How dare you hurt his feelings? Watch this again. Scanning of Magnus Olsson.
International Center Against Abuse of Covert Technologies. ICACT. Phase 3 scanning of Mr. Magnus Olsson and other targeted individuals.
ISAAct.org was created to bring awareness to the general public and the legal systems around the world about serious human rights abuses utilizing remote influencing technologies. In 2011, ISAAct.org, through the help of Dr. John Hall, a licensed physician in the state of Texas, developed a 3-phase testing process that tested individuals who were complaining of similar type symptoms that were consistent with remote influencing technologies. Although most of these complaints were subjective, the International Center Against the Abuse of Covert Technologies set out to objectively obtain data to rule in or rule out the possibility of remote influencing technologies being the cause of these symptoms. In the following scene, you will see the actual testing of our preliminary scan, Phase 1, with a volunteer by the name of Magnus Olsson. This was conducted in Croydon, London.
Good to this side.
No, exactly. I got that.
Now he has in his forehead.
Now I am stuck. I want to know how the hell that works.
Right there are empty. Right there it's only liquid. We can put it in and then later it slips.
In the following scene, you will see Phase 3 testing being conducted on Magnus Olsson, this time in a controlled environment. A Faraday cage, which was rated to block out frequencies between 9 kHz and 18 GHz.
This is actually quite exciting.
You will notice that in this controlled environment, that utilizing a frequency counter, we are detecting frequencies from the right and left TMJs of Mr. Magnus Olsson, including a diffuse area in his frontal area. Keep in mind, the Faraday cage is rated to block out these frequencies between 9 kHz and 18 GHz. Those frequencies found being detected on the frequency counter are well within those parameters.
But it is clear.
Yeah, I can read it.
Okay. We said mid-forehead?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's a psychiatrist too. He knows exactly how to diagnose targeted individuals and he also knows about the medication.
I mean, honestly, guys, this is just crazy sad, isn't it? It's just sad because there are so many people out there who probably could be helped. I know that things like schizophrenia can be really tricky, and not everyone can be medicated in a way that really helps them. Either you really have a massive backlash on the medication where you just don't feel well all the time, or the medication doesn't really help and you do feel physically well. So it's always a problem, and I also understand that it's hard to accept that.
These people won in court and got a restraining order.
Yeah, the funny thing was we had it all. Well, we had the interference videos of the TV, and I actually explained it all on the stand, and that microwaves were able to do it. And I said, you know,
audio. Keep talking about the audio.
And I said that also, you know, when I was explaining what sawtooth waves were microwaves, but they look like what a saw blade would look like. And you can actually attach audio signal to the back end of it, and you can also attach a video signal to the back end of it, so you can actually put subliminals in people's heads, and they think they're having voices being talked to them, even though it's not schizophrenia. As well as they can put they can actually implant images into people's heads with the same technology with sawtooth waves. And the reason being is because the waves aren't completely square waves. So on the back end, they can attach audio and they can attach video. And that being the case, yeah, you can actually have an auditory hearing effect from it.
They can hear you.
And I go on top of that, and I explained how because the judge actually asked me how would they be able to hear you in your own house, and I said, well, that's actually pretty easy, really. I said, if you're bouncing microwaves from a pulse generator off of anywhere, and then with another sort of a microwave signal, but you're running it out of phase, meaning say you're running one pulse generator square waves. When the top square wave is hitting the house, you're sending it out. Then you're doing it 180 degrees out of phase, meaning the bottom part of the square wave is coming out when the top part is coming out of the other one. So that creates an interference pattern. And if you have something that bounces, because it'll bounce back just like radar or sonar, and with that interference pattern, that's when you can pick up the actual audio sounds. That if somebody's talking or something like that, you can actually pick up what they're saying by doing that. And it's through the interference patterns that people are able to pick up what people are hearing, or not hearing, but saying, and they can tell you exactly what you're saying because they're using something to pick up the interference patterns in the microwaves. And once you pick up the interference patterns, all you have to do is run it through your computer, and you can hear the audio effects of the interference pattern.
This is another good video that explains the technology.
Schizophrenia. Or not.
You know, hearing voices is not a sign of mental illness necessarily. You have to consider that it can be the military technology. And this is the greatest, I would say, insult to medical doctors, that we are not taught this. No medical doctors generally know of military technology that you can, with synthetic telepathy, make people hear voices in their heads.
Voice to skull.
Apparatus for audibly communicating speech using the radio frequency hearing effect. Now we're getting into transmitting voices directly into people's heads. A modulation process with a fully suppressed carrier and input processor filtering to produce an encoded output. For amplitude modulation and audio speech processor filtering. Intelligible subjective sound is produced when the encoded signal is demodulated using the RF hearing effect. So again, they've got diagrams here explaining exactly how this can be done. We're talking about putting speech through various frequencies being decoded by the human brain as an actual voice.
There's nothing crazy about it, even if
So can you expand on that exactly?
Well, like telepathy.
Yeah.
You know, the thing with mind control is very bad because they call it synthetic telepathy. They can induce thoughts in you. They can induce voices in your head, and of course, voices in your head that you're crazy. You know, they can do that, and they have done that from at least officially from the Iraqi First War. They gave orders to soldiers straight into their head. Of course, they were guinea pigs.
American soldiers?
American, yeah, right. And if this
did
technology...
Did they use it on the enemy as well?
Yes, in a way, because I always remember I was so shocked when I saw a picture when soldiers came from bunkers, Iraqi soldiers. They had bunkers and about 3-yard walls, you know. They had drinks and food for 6 months. Americans had sent helicopters above, and they had Arabic-speaking interpreters who spoke Arabic to them, and they were sending, with microwaves, orders to come out. They were being mind-controlled, and all of a sudden, all the guys came out. With no reason at all. Nobody attacked physically. It was just done with mind control.
You know, when you know you're on the side of right, you know, you have that grace of God, I guess, with you when you know you're doing the right thing. And the right thing's not always the easiest thing. Like I told you, I never in a million years planned on being the one of the spearheads.
Hey, you were telling me that during the break. How did you, it just like, wow, it just got, and now you've learned more and more about it.
Well, after the book came out and I had, you know, thousands of other victims come forward and say, thank you for putting a book out on it and using whatever, you know, cred that I have with having a couple of initials behind my name. Not that that's any big thing, but the one thing that I was happy that the book did is I had a lot of families call me and say, you know what, we have a son that's been complaining about hearing voices and complaining of, you know, government surveillance. We've had him to 5 different psychiatrists. They've shocked him. They've had him on meds. It never goes away. Now we have a little better understanding about maybe what he's dealing with. You know, and if that had only happened once, it would have been worth having wrote the book. You know, it's happened hundreds of times where people have actually, you know, let psychiatrists do electroconvulsive therapy on loved ones that were voicing these complaints. Now we're kind of going toward an educational campaign. We need to educate at least local psychiatrists. Now, at the top of the psychiatric chain, Canadian Psychiatric Association, the American Psychiatric Association, they know very well what these websites.
Oh, they're the people running it.
Yeah, they're the ones who started a lot of the MK Ultra programs that have advanced to where we're at now. Now, at the local level, where you're being maybe mandated to see a psychiatrist, they probably are largely ignorant of the technology. But unfortunately, no matter how much proof these victims put in front of psychiatrists, they're not looking at anything.
Well, that's the question. How do you tell, because you've always been contacted by real schizophrenics then, how do you tell somebody who's crazy versus somebody who...
Well, the bottom line is schizophrenia usually starts at an early age. You don't, most of the victims that I'm talking to can pinpoint the time their stalking started and their hearing voices started, and typically it's late 30s, early 40s. You just don't see that with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is usually 18 to 28 in a male. It can be a little bit later in a female. So now what's happening is a lot of these victims are being diagnosed with delusional disorder or psychosis, otherwise specified, which means you've got something going on and we don't know what it is. On top of that, the medications won't treat this. You know, having worked with a lot of these victims that are hearing voices that are being put into their head, not from schizophrenia, most of them kind of have an idea of where it's coming from. Some of them are wrong because the technology is meant to foster a wrong belief, make you think it's, you know, your relatives or your parents or, you know, your work, when in reality, at least from what we found with counter surveillance in San Antonio, it's usually a private investigative group made up of former federal employees.
Yeah, that's why you've been on the news. You guys have actually caught people before in the act.
Exactly.
Wow. Oh, man, I tell you. And so you've got over 1 million private contractors operating domestically just in PSYOPs, they admit.
There's too many clearances out there. Too many clearances. And, you know, looking at mind control technology, they've always contracted it out. It's never done directly by the CIA, not since the 60s.
Absolutely. Wow.
Looking at my channel analytics, I have realized that my audience is above the age of 25, and predominantly between the age of 35 to 44 years old. Something got me thinking. There are way too many old victims, too old to be schizophrenic.
3. That can cause insanity, and it was an experiment.
One of the experiments was to take an ordinary sane person, cause insanity, and have a psychiatrist who was unknown to everybody diagnose schizophrenia, or paranoia or a psychiatric illness. That was a successful outcome. And the person would spend the rest of their life in an asylum in misery, but to the government scientists that was a success. Black Project scientist Dr. Barry Trower.
Incoming voice detection.
And it can be proven by Blue Mouse. I had exchanged some emails with Elton Byrd before he died, and he was a Navy scientist who was engaged in these technologies. And he said that the Blue Mouse is world's most sensitive microphone. If somebody says, I hear voices in my head, so you put the Blue Mouse onto the skull of this person. And this microphone, Blue Mouse, takes the words, the sentences that the person hears, and everybody in the same room can hear it. So it is not a sign of mental illness, it is military action towards this person with electromagnetic fields and electromagnetic beams, radiation. And of course it's criminal. But this can be absolutely proven. But how many know a Blue Mouse? Very few, I would say.
But to me, to believe that some shady organization, or for me to believe that my life would be important enough.
Repeating the same thing, trying to be convincing.
For someone to sit in a room all day and observe it, right? It's like this FBI agent meme. It's ridiculous, you know. Nobody would want to do this. I don't claim there's no surveillance, right? We've all seen the Snowden reveals, and we all have our phones right in front of us on the table, right? And there's a microphone on it and a camera. And I'm not saying that these things cannot potentially be bugged or accessed with software from external sources. But to think that someone or that your life is so interesting and important that people would monitor you and, you know, expose you to horrible torture and do these, it just makes no sense.
Repeating the same thing, trying to be convincing. In the last part he has this same expert opinion and expertise like the doctors do, ha 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 ha.
It makes much more sense if you look a little bit into neurology that your brain is a very, very powerful computer, basically, that has a lot of power over your body. And this is just some form of your brain playing tricks on you. This is my opinion. Guys, again, I don't want to judge these people. I don't want to say this is the truth and ridicule them and point my finger at them. This is what I think. And I think I'm pretty aligned with a lot of medical doctors that see these things all the time, these stories popping up. And I think I'm pretty aligned with a lot of medical doctors that see these things all the time, these stories popping up.
Yet, this dude is dumb and funny, your average gang stalker. There will be a part 2. He made another video, even better than this one.
Like, share and subscribe to keep in touch. Video made by GangStalking Attention Awareness.